This is Liberty Mark 222. Today I'm going to talk about the Detroit bankruptcy. This is an unprecedented event that's happened in the history of America. A city the size of Detroit Thursday declared bankruptcy, filing Chapter 9, and they've got $20 billion in debt that they can't pay, unfunded liabilities, pensions, bonds, all sorts of things. In 1950, there's about 1.8 million people that lived in the city. Now there's about, 600,000? There's about 78,000 homes that are abandoned in Detroit. About 40% of the lights aren't working there. The murder rate is the highest in 40 years. You got half the population, and the murder rate is the highest in 40 years. Now, what's surprising to me is that the media isn't making a bigger deal out of this. Instead of the people reacting by saying, "Wow, we got a big problem here," they're trying to stop them from declaring bankruptcy, which is like, okay, whatever. If they can't pay their bills, they can't pay their bills. You can't. How can you force somebody to pay bills with money they don't have? Anyway, a lot of people. The way I look at this is, well, first of all, I look at President Obama. He made this big deal out of saving GM, and he's going to save all these jobs in Detroit, right? Well, I don't think it worked too well. It doesn't seem like it saved hardly anything. And so the U.S. taxpayers paid all this money for GM to bail them out. I think it's about $20 billion, actually. And now that money's just been wasted. That the stocks are way down. They've sent a number of plants overseas, to Japan, to China. And so I was thinking, what does this mean? And I was reading in Amos. And if you look at, let's say you looked at America, and we lost half of our population, and all the jobs are gone. We got a whole bunch of abandoned homes. It would be a disaster. Well, that's what's happened to Detroit. It's a disaster. They're talking about it not even being a city anymore. And in Amos, he says, the prophet Amos, this is in the Old Testament, it says, "When a trumpet sounds in a city, do not the people tremble? When a disaster comes to a city, has not the Lord caused it?" God caused this. God caused this disaster in Detroit. And, people don't even want to talk about God anymore. People don't even want to talk about the Lord. But look what he says. Why would he have done this to this city? He says, "Hear this word, the word the Lord has spoken against you, O people of Israel, against the whole family I brought up out of Egypt. You only have I chosen of all the families of the earth. Therefore I will punish you for all your sins." We're considered a city on the hill, a light, a shining city. We're a Christian nation, supposedly, right? And the whole world sees America, and they see all this corruption, all this sin, and all this terrible stuff. Why wouldn't God judge this country? Of course he's going to judge this country. It says here in Amos chapter 3, verse 14, it says, "On the day I punish Israel for her sins, I will destroy the altars of Bethel. The horns of the altar will be cut off and fall to the ground. I will tear down the winter house along with the summer house. The houses adorned with ivory will be destroyed, and the mansions will be demolished, declares the Lord. He's talking about destroying homes. He said he is going to destroy these homes. He's taking responsibility for it. And, there's this whole gay marriage debate, and it just seems like every type of immorality is allowed in this country now, and nobody seems to care about it. Nobody is concerned about it, except God is. He says, let every man be a liar and God be true. God doesn't care if everybody in the whole world is against him. He could destroy this whole world like he destroyed in the times of Noah. He says only 8 people survived out of that whole amount of people. So, and in Psalm 2, he says, what's Psalm 2 say? It says the nations rage. Right? Why do the nations conspire and the peoples plot in vain? The kings of the earth take their stand, and rulers gather together against the Lord and against his anointed one. Let us break their chains, they say, and throw off their fetters. The one enthroned in heaven laughs. The Lord scoffs at them. Then he rebukes him in his anger and terrifies them in his wrath, saying, I have installed my king on Zion, my holy hill. I will proclaim the decree of the Lord. He said to me, You are my son. Today I become your father. Ask of me, and I will make the nations your inheritance, and the ends of the earth your possession. And you will rule them with an iron scepter. You will dash them to pieces like pottery. Therefore, you kings, be wise. Be warned, you rulers of the earth. Serve the Lord with fear, and rejoice with trembling. Kiss the Son, lest he be angry, and you be destroyed in your way. For his wrath can flare up in a moment. Blessed are all who take refuge in him. So this is nothing new. The world has been conspiring against God forever. People rebel against him all the time. But he laughs. He laughs from heaven. He says he's going to smash them like a pot with an iron rod. He's going to smash the people. So the first point is this. God caused this destruction of Detroit. And why did he do it? Because he's punishing those people in Detroit for all their sins. And God's not afraid to take responsibility for that. And I know people will just say, "Oh, what kind of person are you? You blame you. I can't believe you even say stuff like this." Well, I just read it out of the Bible. So if you want to read that, look in Micah chapter 3, verses 1 through 8, and you can read it for yourself. Thank you. This is Liberty Mark 222.